What's good, you sexy, and I mean sexy individuals, the of age ones, of course. Um, what's good, y'all? Though, welcome back to another Nuke's Top Five. Um, where I've been these last 2 weeks streaming Twitch, boom, right there. I've been streaming every day this week, every single day. Granted, it's only been like 3 days, but I've been a little consistent. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck, turning me on. Don't you just love when a man is consistent? It just does something to you. You know what I mean? But yeah. Feel free to subscribe to the Twitch. Follow the Twitch. But shout out to all the new followers I got over there. And shout out to any of y'all if y'all came over here and didn't know I had a YouTube as well. What's good? You know what I mean? But yeah, let's get to this Nuke's Top 5 video. Hope y'all been doing well these past 2 weeks. I know I've been going for a bit, but I mean, I've still been around. Like I said, you gotta follow me on everything because I'm still around. If I'm not here, I'm there. If I'm not on Twitch, I'm on Instagram. If I'm not on Instagram, I'm on Discord. Also join the Discord too. You already know that's gonna be in the description as well. A lot of new members on there too. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Hope y'all having a great day as well. Once again, you look fantastic. So yeah, today we're gonna be watching some animated horror stories because why not? I'm not going to procrastinate too long. However, I just want to say,
some of these details vague because I seriously don't want the host to find out that I published this story. I don't think they would approve. I hope that is alright, and I'll try to make it as comprehensive as possible. I spent a year studying in Mexico recently, and as you do on exchange, I tried to travel as much as I could. Between the semesters, there was a big break, and me and my buddy that I spent the most time with during the exchange decided that we'd go on a longer backpacking trip to Mexico together. We had a rough plan on where to go and what we wanted to see, but we hadn't even booked our flight back yet, nor were we sure from where we would take it from.
do something.
We wanted to keep it flexible. We had an amazing time, and a few days before our trip ended, we finally decided we would take our flight from a city that was close and had really cheap flights, but the city itself didn't really have anything to offer. Then on Airbnb, we found a room very close to the airport in a house with a pool, and we thought we'd just treat ourselves to a relaxed pool day at the end of the trip. It turned out that the hosts were a family. The husband was Mexican and the wife was from Europe, could even speak our native language. So we arranged that we would take a bus to the airport and that they would pick us up from there. When we finally arrived to the city, it was already dark, and the bus driver refused to drive us to the airport since it was not directly on his route. So he just dropped us off on the highway. That was already a pretty shitty situation to begin with. Standing with our backpacks at the side of the road in the middle of nowhere in a not so safe city in Mexico. But I called the host and sent them our GPS location, and they say no problem and that they will come get us. So the husband came to pick us up, and it was a very uncomfortable situation getting into the car with a stranger in the night, in the middle of nowhere. It also didn't help that the guy looked like Danny Trejo without a mustache, and as I tried to make small talk with him, he only gave monosyllabic answers or straight out ignored me. Well, he's just not a big talker, I thought, and I hoped we would arrive soon. Looking back, I can see a million red flags, but for some reason, at that time, we just didn't see them. Either we were too tired, or to be honest, we didn't really have any other choice than going along anyway, so. But yes, we arrive, and that should have immediately set alarms off. We were in the middle of nowhere. There were fields with sheep and goats around, and all of a sudden, a gravel road branches off from the paved road, and along that gravel road, there are about 6 huge mansions. All with 2-meter walls around them, topped with NATO fence huge gates and at least 2 gigantic guard dogs per house. When we entered their house, we were greeted by the wife, a bubbly middle-aged woman that was very talkative but pleasant. She had actually cooked dinner for us, and we ate while exchanging small talk. The husband just sat at the table not saying a single word. After dinner, we more or less went directly to bed because it had gotten late, and we were tired from a long day. The next morning, we saw that the weather was not that good, so we decided to go into town and just see a few touristy things it had to offer, instead of spending it at the pool. When we came back, it was already dark, but we decided to jump into the pool anyways to cool off, because it was really hot and humid. The wife joined us, and at some point, my friend made the mistake to ask how they were able to afford such a house. didn't really match the price range.
Mind
the
your
jobs they
business,
were
bro.
telling us that they were doing.
Mind your business.
And she deflected a bit and added that her husband was very handy because he had grown up in the streets and basically built a house himself. We realized that it was maybe not the best topic, and we broke the conversation off. That was the last day of our trip, and we had our flight back home early in the morning. We still had some weed left that we had brought on the trip, and we thought it would be nice to smoke one, since it was our last night. But as this was a family home and they had kids around, we thought it would be better to speak to our hosts if they would mind. So later in the evening, we asked the wife if it would be okay if we smoked on the property, which for some reason she found quite amusing and started laughing. She shouted to her husband, who was lying on the couch watching TV. "My love, the boys asked if it would be okay if they smoked some weed. What do you think?" And he just laughed but didn't give an answer. He looked at her with a dumbfounded expression as she told us, "Sure, just go ahead." So we went to the terrace and started smoking our joint. Later, they joined us and we just had a chat. And this is where things got really fucked up. For some reason, they started asking all sorts of questions about the weed. Where we got it, how much it was, who we got it from, and how much we would have to pay for that back in Europe. They just seemed way too interested in the weed, and at one point, the wife just nonchalantly revealed to us, yes, we thought about doing that as a source of income, selling weed. But too many people die doing that, because the cartels don't like that. Actually, my husband used to kill people for doing that.
Why would you just tell him
I
that?
immediately felt sober. Did she just say... And as if he read my mind, her husband added, "Yes, when I was about 16, I killed a lot of people for the cartel for money." And he said it in a tone as if he had just used to mow lawns when he was a teenager. I still thought I must have misunderstood, so I texted my friend who was sitting across the table from me. Try not to make eye contact, because I knew we would freak each other out. He confirmed that I had indeed understood right. We discussed what we should do and agreed that there's no immediate threat and that we should just stay. We don't have anywhere else to go anyways, and it's already late. But things got even crazier. We tried to keep our composure and not completely freak out while still making conversation with our hosts. A few minutes later, though, the husband got up and went inside to get something. And he came back with a literal kilo of weed, pressed into a brick. He proceeded to break bits off the brick and roll them into a joint. That would probably have knocked out Snoop Dogg. It was about the size of my thumb, and I guess it had about 2 grams of weed in there. Of course, he offered the joint to us, but we politely declined, seeing that we were already pretty stoned. He seemed a little offended, but fortunately, he bought our excuse. But it got even worse. A few minutes later, we hear a couple of loud bangs. The wife became a bit uneasy and asked,
fuck.
"What was that?"
Ah, shit.
To which he answered calmly, 9mm. To confirm my suspicion, that had indeed been shots. I would say it was around 7 or something shots, fired pretty quickly after each other. The wife got nervous and asked if we should maybe go inside. "What do you think they are shooting at in the air? At cows? At people?" But he just shrugged it off and we stayed outside. Again, a few minutes later, there were more shots, but this time even closer. The wife got even more upset and asked again, "Should we go inside? What do you think they're shooting at? We need to go inside." And I think I don't know if
active out there
in the calmest way imaginable. "No, everything's okay. I didn't hear any screams yet." I don't know why, but the way he just calmly said that freaked me out, and it is still making my heart beat whenever I think about it. After that, we quickly excused ourselves and went to our room. When we could finally talk, we basically both lost it and panicked. What the hell were we supposed to do? We are locked in a house with a contract killer in the middle of absolutely nowhere. People are shooting outside.
Get comfortable.
We decided it was probably our best bet to stay because
get comfortable.
Well, we are his guests and he is not going to harm us. And it's better to have walls and dogs and a serial killer in between us and people shooting around. So we barricaded ourselves into the room and didn't sleep a second until the morning.
Smoked some with him and chill out.
We got the hell out of there and went to the airport. I was never so happy to be patted down in security my whole life.
I look good. God damn.
Growing up, I live with my emotionally and mentally abusive helicopter mom,
so do you,
misogynistic stepdad, and my brother. When I turned 18, my grandparents were kind enough to let me move in with them since they live so close to my college. This was my way out, away from that clown show at home, and I was incredibly grateful for them. I sometimes wonder if my parents hadn't been so hard on me, if this would have ever even happened. But I was an adult and I made these decisions. Luckily, I learned from them. Once I was free, so to speak, and had much more freedom, I naturally started to rebel a bit more while I was trying to find my way. I rebelled in everything from clothing, music, tattoos, and even dating. Specifically, I wanted to date the most out there person to prove a point, I guess. If I could go back to my 18-year-old self, I would punch myself in the face for these decisions. I was on a local MySpace forum and I saw James. I went to high school with James and we got on fine, but I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. It turns out that James had suffered some childhood trauma and went to go live with a relative about 8 hours away in another state and was seemingly living a more stable life now. We started messaging back and forth and I liked James a lot. He was different, quirky, and edgy even. I started to speak with James more and more frequently and messages became texts, and somehow in the mix, it became a relationship that I regret to this day. Every day, non-stop texting, and sometimes it would turn dark and James would say things to me that are forever ingrained in my head. He would often talk about his childhood trauma and some seriously disturbing things. Of course, this is a red flag and I'm unsure why I continue to stick around. After a couple of months, James came to visit me. We stayed a few days in a hotel and it seemed like a whirlwind. I truly cared about him, but looking back, I don't know if I would have necessarily called it love or simply just having a good time. But at the time, I was convinced that it was love and that I felt like he was the one for me. There was an instance where I had come out of the bathroom at the hotel and I remember the hotel room being in disarray, clothes strewn everywhere, and it was just a giant mess. But James stood there smiling. He got down on one knee and proposed with a small sapphire and diamond ring.
What?
I said yes, but it just didn't feel real, or something about it was unsettling. When I think about it, I feel nauseous.
At 18,
I
too.
guess it's a bit of an embarrassment that still lingers. Towards the end of James' visit, we sobbed together and we were unsure of how we were going to make this work. What other options did I have other than to move? I withdrew from my classes and moved to his area. I remember when I told my parents,
dumb
my mom
bitch.
was extremely upset that I
Know
never
what?
discussed this with her or my stepdad. But I think that conversation fueled me to really stick it out and make it work. In my mind, I was an adult and this was a huge adult decision and I didn't need to discuss anything with anyone, and no one would tell me anything different. We lived in a small room at James' grandmother's house, and we never really left. He would act very strange when I mentioned wanting friends or wanting to get a job so I could leave the house, or even wanting to leave the house in general. I mentioned earlier in the past that James had his quirks and would sometimes do odd things. For example, he had become a huge Insane Clown Posse fan during our relationship.
I know. They live in the
That he liked
Midwest
them,
or some
but not
shit.
to the extent of borderline
I just
obsession.
know it.
They weren't my cup of tea, but I'm not going to tell someone what they can and can't listen to. But things just got weird. James had become such a fan that he got a giant tattoo that represented his love for the Insane Clown Posse. He started to solely listen to their music, and he started to paint his face, often in clown makeup.
Juggalos.
It became so much of an obsession that he would try to force me to paint my face, and would get irrationally upset and would scream at me. He shoved me and tried to trap me into a closet when I told him that I just didn't want to.
God damn.
It was something that really set him off, and I'm unsure why.
Bet you regret it now, huh?
As the days went by, I started to feel more and more isolated to just staying in our room in this house, and I could only really ever leave the bedroom to eat or use the bathroom. Otherwise, we just stayed in the room. When I did get to leave the house, James had to be with me and we would just go to his other relative's house or to dinner. I had no friends and I wasn't allowed to get a job and I had no support system.
Oh, boo-hoo.
James kept a notebook that he would journal in and would openly read some of his entries that seemed pretty mild. I shouldn't have invaded his privacy on that particular day, but I think it saved my life. James was getting ready for work and had his notebook on the bed. He had been acting strange and cold towards me, so I looked into the journal. Some of his entries mentioned how he wanted to cut me on my privates with a box cutter, and he tiptoed around the idea of me not being alive, and this was my out. My parents and I were somewhat speaking at this time, and my aunt lived a couple of hours from me. I had told everyone that I was coming home and what I had just read. My aunt packed up and started heading my way, just in case and to make sure I could safely leave. I told James that I saw what he wrote and that I was going to go back home, and that this relationship isn't going to work out. James fell to his knees in tears, begging me not to leave, saying that he loved me, but that all quickly changed into anger when he wanted to lock me in his closet. So
Why would you tell the nigga?
Lucky for me, he had to go to work before he could really do anything. While he was gone, I packed up my things while listening to his grandma scream at me, and I left. Unfortunately, the story doesn't end here. A A few months had gone by, and James and I had become friends, and I had come to visit him, which was the last visit.
Are you?
Nothing bad happened. It wasn't even a bad time or anything, but I just knew that I had to cut him out.
These bitches never learn.
Years had gone by after that visit.
I don't
would
feel
say
bad.
maybe 3 or 4, and I had heard through mutual friends that James had gotten married. I had moved across the country for school and to just explore a new area and have the freedom that I should have gotten on the first go without being so crazy.
Where those come from?
James would occasionally try to speak with me on social media, and I would just not reply, or the replies would be a few and far in between. I'm 32 now, and I recently got married. I've started to settle down, and my husband and I are trying for our first baby, which is very exciting.
Don't care.
James hasn't been a thought in my mind over the past several years at this point.
Yes, you have.
Until recently.
Yes, he has.
He found me on Facebook, and to be honest, I didn't think he had social media anymore. At this point, I expressed to him that we are not friends, and it's really inappropriate to keep messaging me. I said, "Can you please stop?"
Oh, she messaged him instead of just blocking him.
Fair enough.
Oh,
so
clearly she want to talk to him.
Another few
You know what I
months
mean?
go by, and I get a Snapchat from him. Blocked. Another few months go by, and he followed me on Instagram. I kept my Instagram open because I like to post about my travels and fitness stuff, and I really have nothing to hide.
Just say you
or
want
anything
people to
really be
see you.
private
It's
about,
okay.
Until he started following me. I went to block his account, and I noticed that this was a brand new account. No followers, and he only followed me. I have since made everything private, blocked all accounts, went to those sites like
There we
Ben
go. We're getting
Verified,
somewhere.
and had all of my information removed from those databases. I feel like I made a grave mistake as a teenager, and I was able to move on from that and wanting to live a normal life. I'm unsure why he still lurks around trying to antagonize me and be involved in my life.
Anyway,
This happened back when I was a kid. I was pretty young, I think about 7 years old or so. I remember that when I was a kid, I always loved going to Toys R Us. My parents didn't really go there too much, but whenever they did, I was sure to go along. I have a younger sister, and during this time, she would have been about 3 or 4 years old. One time, I went with my mom and sister to the local Toys R Us. I don't remember the exact reason why we were there. I don't think that I was supposed to be getting anything,
Toys?
though. Still, I was glad to go with and look at all the toys. It was really the only toy store that I remember going to as a kid. So we got there, and I was walking around following my mom and sister and looking at everything. Most of the time we would go to a store, there would be 1 or 2 aisles of toys, and here it was the entire place. The store really was not that busy. I don't remember exactly what day of the week we went on or what time it was, but I do remember there being not that many other people around. So after following my mom and sister for a while, I found this area of toys that I was really interested in. My mom knew that I liked it, and she was going to go to another part of the store with my sister. I remember she asked me if I wanted to stay in that area or come with her, and obviously I chose to stay, because I think she was going to one of the girl aisles for my sister. She then told me where she would be and said she would come back to get me. Then her and my sister left. I stayed where I was, and nobody else was in the immediate area. After a while though, I wanted to go back to my mom. I don't remember exactly why, but I did. I should have just stayed where I was and waited for her to come back, but I was young, so I remember that I left the area to go and find my mom. I figured that it would be really easy. Unfortunately for me, it was not. I got lost pretty quickly and didn't really know where in the store I was. Then I started to get worried that I would not be able to find my mom at all. After walking around for a short time, this nice woman approached me. I'm not really sure how long she saw me wandering around, but she came up to me and asked if I was okay. She was very friendly, and she asked me if I was looking for my mom, and I told her yes. She told me that she had seen my mom and knew where she was. I don't know why, but I completely believed her. So the woman told me to follow her, and I started walking next to her. We went down a few random aisles. I remember the next thing I knew, we were near the front of the store and the entrance. It appeared as though this woman was just going to walk right out the doors with me. As we got closer, I remember seeing this man just standing by the doors. He was alone, and I remember he looked at me and also looked at the woman. We were walking closer and closer to him. Now, I knew that my mom hadn't left. She definitely would have come and found me before, and certainly wouldn't have gone outside without me. I remember telling the woman that my mom was at the girls' aisle. but the woman just completely ignored me. I had to have told her that like 2 or 3 times in a row. She did not stop walking and did not say anything. So when we got within like 30 feet of the door, I just stopped. I then turned around and just ran in the other direction. The woman did not run after me. I went as far into the store as I could, and as I continued to walk around, I remember finally noticing all the pink from the girls' aisles. So I went over there, and I actually found my mom. I remember that after that, I did not see the woman or the man inside the store, and they must have left. I also did not go far away from my mom for the rest of the time we were there.
Shit, I remember I got lost in a mall one time. Fuck me up.
I'm a female, and this took place one night about 20 years ago. At this time, my daughter was just 5 years old. One night, I left home to do some shopping. I was getting groceries and then was going to get my daughter a birthday present.
Did you leave your daughter
She would
by
be turning
herself
6 in a few days.
at home?
She stayed at home with
okay.
my husband, and I
All
went
right.
by myself. So I got to the Toys R Us, and it was sometime at night. I don't remember exactly when, but after going inside, things were very quiet, and I think that they must have been closing soon. I knew one thing that I wanted to get for my daughter, but I was kind of looking around for something else as well. I don't even remember what toys they were. Probably some kind of stuffed animals or something else related to animals. After being there a little while, as I was standing in this one aisle by myself, I looked over and noticed this guy at the end of the aisle. It was a man who was wearing a large black coat and also wearing a hat. He was just kind of standing there and seemingly looking at me. Immediately, it struck me as suspicious. I'm not a paranoid person at all, but this just seemed really odd. I didn't really look at him and pretended not to notice, but I could see out of the corner of my eye him still just kind of standing there. After a little while, I looked over again. A few seconds after looking at him, he walked away. I didn't know what that was all about, so I moved on and was shopping for probably about 15 more minutes.
All these characters got
I
big
didn't
ass
see the man
titties, yo.
during this time. I then checked out and left the store.
Not that I was looking, I
The
was.
parking
but
lot was dark and quiet.
I'm
and
just
I made
saying.
my
like,
way to my vehicle,
I ain't complaining.
but it didn't take me long to notice that there was a car parked right next to mine.
Just watch.
It was an SUV, I believe a Suburban, and it was dark gray in color. Maybe it was because of the man staring at me in the store, but this also gave me a bad feeling. It seemed to be parked unnecessarily close to my car, especially with so many open spaces around. But I kept walking towards my vehicle. I then heard one of the SUV doors open and sort of saw it,
Yep.
but it was at the side farthest away from me. I thought about stopping, but I told myself to just keep going and ignore it. However, shortly after this, I noticed a man walk around the SUV, and it was the same guy who I had seen inside. This was enough for me to turn around instantly where I was and walk back towards the store. I went all the way back inside of the Toys R Us. Unfortunately, not long after making it inside, I saw the man enter the store as well. I wasn't really sure what to do. The guy seemed to be following me, and I didn't know why.
That's why you gotta
His
open.
car
That's
was
why you gotta
parked right
carry.
next to
You know what I
mine
mean?
For some strange reason as well. I walked
Can never
into
be
the
too
store and
safe.
went down a random aisle. When I did, I saw the man walking a ways away, but in my direction. I just started walking through random aisles of the store. The man was not right behind me or anything. Occasionally, I would look back and see him off in the distance. I'm not sure if he was trying to make it seem like he wasn't following me, but I could tell. I decided to call my husband. I took out my cell phone and called our home phone. Thankfully, he was quick to answer. When I told him what was going on, he said he would be on his way. We luckily lived pretty close by, and it was easily under 10 minutes. I continued to walk around the store. To delay time even more, I picked out another random toy for our daughter. Then I went to buy that as well. When I went to check out, I saw the man get in line right behind me. I'm not sure what he was getting, if anything, but when I left the checkout area, I decided to leave the store again. This time, I saw my husband's car was parked right across from mine and the SUV. I also noticed that the man was following me again, and I heard his footsteps approaching from behind. When I started walking outside, the man left the store as well. My husband emerged from his vehicle and also started approaching me. At that time, the man behind me actually changed directions. He went to the left, almost to the next row of parking spaces, but
Bitch.
then quickly almost ran to his SUV,
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
got inside of it, and left. After that, we both went home. I'm grateful that my husband was able to help me out. That man was much larger than I was, and I did not carry any pepper spray at the time. After that, I started to. But
Always
luckily,
carry some.
nothing like that has happened since. Way
More
back
Toys
when I
R
was
Us?
like
Hold up.
17, I think. I worked at a Toys R Us store. This was back when they were pretty popular and not going out of business yet. It was a typical store.
Why you had to
and I
add
got
that
the
part,
job
huh?
Because my mom's friend was the manager. When I worked there, it was pretty nice. We usually weren't that busy unless it was a weekend, and I mostly just worked as a cashier. But one time when I was working, something really creepy happened. It was early in my shift, and things were pretty quiet. I was the only cashier that was open at the time, and I think we had 2 other people working. I'm not sure exactly where they were, probably in the back organizing things or stocking a shelf. Things would often be very quiet earlier in the day, but then would get busy in the afternoon. On this day, I recall a customer came in the store and started to shop. It was a man, and he quickly went out of my sight, but not long after this, I saw him approaching and I thought he was maybe going to check out. But instead, he came up to me and asked me where the Hot Wheels were. I tried telling him the aisle, but he asked if I could just show him.
Discord
I
mod.
didn't really want to leave the check lanes unoccupied, but because not that many people were there, I did. I walked over and showed the man where they were, but when we got there, he started asking me more questions. I answered a few, but I soon told him that I really had to get back to the registers because nobody else was there. Then I walked back. I didn't quite know where my coworkers were, but I let the man know that there should be somebody else he can ask for help. I got back to the registers, and thankfully nobody was waiting or anything. Some time went by, and I noticed just a few people shopping from what parts of the store that I could see.
Mm-hmm.
After maybe 10 or 15 minutes, this one woman came
Big
up to me.
titties. What I say?
She told me that some guy had been following her around the store. When she described him, I realized that it was the same man that I had talked to. Apparently, he had been closely following her, and when she asked him to leave her alone, he did not. This continued until the woman threatened to call the police, and apparently he finally backed off. She told me that she had just called the police and she wanted to let me know. The woman then waited with me until the police arrived, and in that time, I remember noticing the man quickly walking out of the store. Not long after, the police got there. They spoke with me and the woman, and then they left because the man did. I thought they were going to look around for him. After that, things pretty much went back to normal. Soon, things got busier, and another coworker joined me at the check lanes. I was kept pretty busy until several hours later, before close. When it was nighttime, things got really quiet again. Once more, it went back to me being the only cashier, and the store being very calm. I had some downtime where I was just waiting for people to check out. It was during this time that I noticed the man from earlier entering the store. I could not believe it. I wasn't sure if I should call the police right then and there or what, but instantly the man started walking in my direction. Surprisingly, he came right up to me and then asked me how much longer I had until I was off.
Oh,
I didn't really know what
okay.
to
He
do.
asking
I told
to
him
get
that I was
shot.
working until close. He then started asking me a few more things, but the next thing I knew, I remember a coworker started to approach. When the man saw her, he just ran away and went farther into the store into a
Freak
random
boy.
aisle.
Some of these
I guess
niggas,
she
yo.
had been there before when he had been stalking the other woman. After seeing him, my coworker started to chase after the guy. I then called the police and reported him for being back in the store. My coworker came back a short time later, asking me if the man had left. He had not, so we assumed that he was hiding someplace inside the store. The police got there quickly, and we told them that we thought the guy was hiding someplace. They looked around and were able to find him within probably 10 minutes. He had in fact been hiding in the store. He ended up getting banned from the Toys R Us. That was by far the craziest thing that ever happened when I worked there.
What's up with these niggas? Yo, I can't believe like dudes like that actually exist out here. When I be hearing about some of these stories that like female friends be telling me and shit, I'm just like, yo, there's no way. Like, I'm sorry y'all gotta deal with that, girls. Sorry. We ain't all like that. But I ran into my own fair share of weirdos. Like both genders, they're all. It's always, you know, they all in a certain group. It's strange individuals out here. Stay vigilant. Watch your back. Carry something on you. Knife. I'm not an advisor, nothing like you. You don't gotta listen to me, but like knife, taser, blicky, mace, you know, golf club, you know, a baseball bat with mittens in your trunk, you know, shit like that. But allegedly. But nah. Thank y'all for watching. I appreciate all of y'all and love all of y'all to the fullest. I will be streaming directly after this video goes up on Twitch. Make sure to follow me on Twitch if you enjoy the live videos. Also, if you are missing the gaming content, my videos will be uploaded onto my gaming channel from my Twitch. So make sure to stay updated with all that. Thank y'all. Love y'all. I'm gonna see y'all in the next video. I'm out of here. Peace.
Hey, Qua. Love from the country. Big Lee, not the little one.